Hello and welcome. Again, this is our fourth episode, our fourth podcast. My name is Dr. Brian Olette with Scoliosis Specialists of Georgia. And this is my partner of 30 years, Dr. Lisa Catarula. And today I kind of want to discuss hormones and treatment.
We get lots of questions about that.
Well, everyone calls on the phone, right? I just had a phone call the other day and said, do you treat the whole body? And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, I just talked to a doctor that's going to treat my daughter for 2 weeks, and then and they're going to give them melatonin and all kinds of supplements and things like that. And so I just want to know if you treat the whole body.
And so was that person told that these supplements were going to somehow help the scoliosis?
Well, yeah, because they're sold on something that says, hey, we're going to treat the whole body, right? And so, it's funny because when she said that to me, I said, I spend my life, I've dedicated it to scoliosis treatment, right? I mean, I get up early every single day. I grab my coffee, I sit at my desk, and I read research, right? It's what I do. And so I'm like, why haven't I heard of this melatonin, right? In a study that proved it.
Right. I mean, we've heard of it. We've had patients asking questions about it, but actually, why haven't we come across a study that shows that it's effective?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so they're selling melatonin. So selling melatonin, let's see make sure we're not missing out on anything.
Right. Do a deep dive into
I wanted
what's
to take
going
a
on.
deep dive, and I said, so, I've dove into this in the past, but I'm thinking maybe I'm missing something. So I always give the benefit of the doubt and say, maybe I'm missing something. So, I dove in again after I saw that, and she said that to me, and I said, well, let's take a look. And then I asked who it was. Who was the doctor? Because maybe I know them, maybe I know what they do. And it ended up, I'm not going to mention any names. I don't want to be unprofessional in any way, and I don't want to degrade anybody. But I know who it is. And so I went to their podcast, and I listened to the podcast, right?
And did they talk about this?
They did. And it was interesting because they used PubMed. And they used PubMed abstract as the melatonin contributing to progressive scoliosis.
So the lack of melatonin, not having enough melatonin causes...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I'm listening and saying, this is really interesting stuff, and I hope he's right. I hope he's correct. He's using PubMed. And so if PubMed has some good research on this that I've missed, I'm PubMed all the time. I'm on orthopedic journals all the time, pediatric journals all the time. Maybe I missed it. So let me go to PubMed. So I read all the PubMed articles.
So tell me what you got.
So it was interesting because I started reading this PubMed article. Let me see this is Eurospine on melatonin. I'll read that in a second. This is a Chinese article on melatonin. Here's my PubMed. And I'm reading the abstract and I'm like, wow. Melatonin seems to play a significant role in AIS. And I'm like, oh.
Adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, maybe I missed something as I'm reading that. Because when the doctor was going over in the podcast, he was talking about the abstract and what the idea of the study was. And then I found his article that he wrote, which was this article. And so I went to the bottom. I was reading this other article, and I'm like, wow, this is some interesting stuff. Let me see what journal this is in. It wasn't a journal. It was him writing what he read on this, which is fine and okay. But he stopped with the abstract, but he didn't go to the conclusion of the study. And so here's the conclusion of this study. Although there are many alterations of melatonin in subjects with adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, the many variables present do not allow to establish a direct cause-effect relationship. Well, we didn't talk about that, but we're selling melatonin supplements. Let me put that one away a second and run right into this Chinese melatonin, right? It talked about melatonin receptor sites. And so the melatonin receptor site doesn't allow the patient or the body to uptake melatonin and could cause progressive scoliosis. So, okay, maybe that's the case, but can you give a supplement and now the receptor site's fixed?
So the idea, I guess, is they're throwing more melatonin at it, hoping that somehow that fixes the receptor sites?
Right. So you're going to absorb that melatonin, it's going to fix, it's going to go right to the brain, the receptor sites are fixed. No, that's not how you fix a receptor site. So, what on here? What was this? This was talking also about estrogen and its role. So that's something to look at as well. Maybe have kids checked for their estrogen levels. I don't know, because there are no studies on that either. I pulled up something in Eurospine. Melatonin may play a role in the pathogenesis of scoliosis. And you're reading this and you're like, this is exactly what the guy's saying. But he stops. He doesn't finish. And when you finish, but at the present, the data available cannot clearly show the role of melatonin in producing scoliosis in humans. The data regarding human melatonin levels are mixed at best, and the melatonin deficiency as a causative factor in the etiology of scoliosis cannot be supported.
So basically, there's no research that proves anything with regard to melatonin supplementation decreasing the risk of progression of scoliosis.
Not that I can find. And so I've looked everywhere. So I'm looking. And so here's my feeling. My feeling is, we don't have all the answers with scoliosis, right? And so we search for answers. We've been searching for 20 plus years on answers on how to treat the scoliosis the best, right? And we're going to go over what is the best treatment in a minute, because we figured it out. It's not hard, and how to manage cases. But maybe melatonin does play a role. Maybe it does. Maybe estrogen levels, because we know estrogen is bone modeling, and necessary for bone modeling. And maybe there's a transition period, or some way, some pathway that's blocked in causing the asymmetrical growth in the vertebra, which we've been saying for 20 plus years, asymmetrical growth in the vertebra, why we don't know. Maybe it's from that, and they've been studying this for years and years. But there's no data to this point that says that's true or that works. So do you want to change the hormone levels in your child? As a child, what's normal and natural and innate of the body, the innate intelligence of the body, secreting certain things at certain times, are you altering that based on somebody that's selling a supplement? I don't know. I can't get on board with that, right? So, we're here as a podcast to say, hey, we're going to give you as much information as we can. We want you to know. Do your own research. Do your studying. If you find it, please contact us. You can go to scoliosisfix.com. Our number's there. Please contact us and say, hey, I found this. Here it is. Here's the research. This is what it says. I'd love to see it. Because anything that can help the patient, perfect. I'm all for it, right? So, moving forward, is it something that we're going to bring into our clinic?
No. No. No research supporting it, of course not.
No, I'm not willing to do that. And, when they say for adults, estrogen levels, progesterone levels as well.
Well, you're talking then about when they're in menopause, I think, right? And how
Correct.
that can potentially affect the way that the bones change during osteoporosis, et cetera. But
Right.
I think talking about children, which is what you're saying this other group of doctors is, talking about, we don't want to be impacting anything in terms of hormonal changes in a growing child without really having a lot of research.
No, because we get a lot of questions too about hormones. Because a lot of children might be smaller or shorter, and they ask about growth hormone, and does growth hormone cause progression? I read a study that it was a study with 1,093 patients. But by the way, that's the other thing. When you read somebody's article, where's the study? How many patients involved in the study? And then what's it about? And a lot of people can't decipher what's good and bad, and what might not have been studied or put into the study, right? So we've talked about this forever. But there was 1,093 patients studied that were given growth hormone, scoliosis patients,
Right.
and 16.7% of those patients progressed rapidly and had severe progression. And so does that mean that growth hormone caused the progression in the 16.7?
No.
Right.
No, they're not teasing out all of the different characteristics of what could potentially be causing those kids to progress.
Right. So we don't know. I mean, 16.7% of that population could have progressed with anything.
Right. A growth spurt.
Right. So it doesn't mean the growth hormone did.
Right.
And so
Right.
there are studies, there are constant studies out there trying to show this. And they've been doing this for years and years and years, but haven't come up with anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard another podcast on a scoliosis doctor talking about menopause. And so a lot of adult patients need to know this, right? And they say, hey, do I have a chance of progressing during menopause? The answer to that is yes. And of course, you've heard of patients that don't have scoliosis that develop scoliosis through menopause.
Right. Usually from a degenerative situation, right?
Right, or bone softening, right? Low estrogen levels, and we get osteoporosis, and it's been proven that osteoporosis can remold bone and create a scoliosis. So maybe a DEXA scan or some kind of scan to find out if you're osteoporotic might be a big help. Absolutely. Doesn't mean that every patient that hits 50 and goes through menopause
No.
is going to progress. If you have any questions, give us a call. Go to a website, like I said at the beginning, scoliosisfix.com. Give us a ring. We'd be happy to talk to you on the phone and answer any questions. Even if you don't decide to do treatment with us, it doesn't matter. We do phone calls all the time.